Hello and welcome to this webinar where we will be discussing the use of Jigsaw PSHE in composite or mixed age classes in primary schools in England. Today we will be looking at the Jigsaw Composite Classes document and explain the need for it, as well as the structure of it so you can see what it may offer to you. We're also very lucky to have Anya Finch with us, a teacher who's helped to develop the document and now uses it in her classroom. Anya will introduce herself in just a second, and later will take you through how she uses the document to support her Jigsaw PSHE planning. My name is Judy Allies. I'm a Jigsaw Associate Consultant, having previously taught in secondary schools for 15 years, and then worked as the Healthy Schools Lead in Bath and North East Somerset, supporting schools with their health and well-being and being part of a team delivering the PSHE CPD programme.
Hello. My name is Anya Finch. I have been a teacher at St Levan Primary School for 12 years and I am currently the RSE and PSHE lead for our school.
So let's start by looking at the Composite Classes document. This can be found in the Community section of the portal. Click on the Documents section and then Articles. Scroll down the main page and you'll find the link to the document itself. This document was developed to take into account the RSHE guidance that was published in 2019. As with all Jigsaw documentation, as and when any changes to that guidance may occur, the Composite Classes document will be updated accordingly, so you can be confident that you are accessing the most up-to-date version from the portal. Jigsaw 3 to 11 is a comprehensive PSHE scheme of work, and for larger schools with single age groups in each class, it's been very straightforward to use. There's a scheme of work that runs from early years, foundation stage, right through to year 6. The schools can be confident they're meeting all the requirements of the current RSHE statutory guidance and that the materials are age appropriate. But we also recognise that delivery of PSHE and RSHE in mixed age classes can be more complex in smaller schools or where you have children of different ages in the same class. So the document will suggest ways of adapting Jigsaw PSHE to suit your school, whilst also meeting the RSHE requirements and providing a spiral, age-appropriate curriculum. Our aim is to make the delivery of PSHE and RSHE for these children as straightforward as possible, and this document is written to support that aim. We're very aware, though, that every small school or school with any mixed-age classes will be unique, so you may find that you can pick up and run with the suggestions given, or you may need to consider further adaptations depending on your own circumstances. There are two suggested models. The first is the simplest. Split the lessons by age across 2 years, here expressed as Year A and Year B. So the suggestion is to group your classes to teach Jigsaw together as Years 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and 5 and 6. Then deliver one age group scheme in Year A. So if you're teaching a group of Year 1 and 2 children, then deliver the Year 1 scheme to them in Year A, deliver the Year 3 scheme to the groups of Year 3 and 4, and deliver the Year 5 scheme to the oldest group of Years 5 and 6. And then deliver the other year group scheme in Year B. That's Years 2, 4 and 6, returning to Year A in your 3rd year, and so on. The second model suggests splitting the scheme by theme or topic. This may be more useful if ability within the class is more mixed, or if you use a topic-themed approach in your classroom more often. There is still progression and an opportunity to assess children, but all the work regarding grouping of lessons into meaningful themes has been done for you. Lessons that are linked within a year group can remain so, and the puzzle flows, allowing the spiral curriculum to continue. We've ensured that all of the current RSHE requirements are met, and this model also allows for age appropriateness of materials within the age groups. It may be that further differentiation is required, and you may want to check that some of the RSHE material is suitable for your particular circumstances. The appendix at the end of the document describes the split of every puzzle and age group across the scheme from Years 1 to 6, and I'll show you that in a minute. In the event that you teach in a one-class school, there are also suggestions for delivery, sharing some of the common elements of the lesson. So what you could do is to put the whole class together to revise the Jigsaw Charter, to do the Connect Us activity, the Calm Me activity, the Open My Mind activity. All of those could be done together as a whole class. And then what you can do is to split the class up into groups. So again, you could go for years 1 and 2 together, years 2, 3 and 4 together, and so on, and use those groups to deliver the learning intentions. The example here on the slide given is the document in year 3, Celebrating Difference. So you can look at the activity suggested for year 3 and differentiate it for older and younger children. Or, alternatively, you could use the Portal Compass feature to look at what Lesson 3 is like in the other year groups. They will suggest activities, and you can then select those accordingly. You can then bring the class back together for the Help Me Reflect element of the lesson. There are suggestions for supporting EYFS classes and also mixed EYF classes and Year 1 classes. If you have a separate EYFS reception class, then they can receive the lessons as they are on the portal year on year. If you have a mixed EYFS and Year 1 class, it is slightly more complex because EYFS lessons are slightly shorter than Year 1 lessons to take into account the age of the children, and they're arranged slightly differently to the Year 1 and above classes. What you could do is to use the knowledge and skills progression documents which are on the portal and look at what the children will be learning in each year group and select activities accordingly. The document then goes on to suggest ways of differentiating lessons further, although we do know that teachers of mixed age classes are already excellent at doing this, and it explains some of the additional tools that Jigsaw provides. So for example, we have editable PowerPoint slides, and there is actually a blank PowerPoint presentation available as well, so that you could make up your own presentation if you wanted to. And as I've already mentioned, the Compass feature, which allows easy scrolling between year groups across puzzles so that selection of activities may be quicker and easier for your classroom teachers. We know that tracking, recording and monitoring which lessons have been taught and which learning outcomes have been delivered can be trickier with composite classes. So Jigsaw provides some documentation to support this, and here on this slide you can see what has been highlighted in the document. This is an example of a summative assessment tracker document. This one is for Year 5, so if you were to teach a mixed Year 5 and 6 class, you could download each of these for the 2 different year groups and then use them to mark off what you have taught, and also you can monitor what the children have achieved across a particular puzzle. And finally, at the end of the document is the appendix with the complete scheme for Model 2, split by theme, laid out for teachers who choose this approach to follow. The examples on the screen show a couple of different puzzles. You can see the 2 different years, Year A and Year B, and the 6 lessons to deliver for each group within that particular puzzle, all of which can be selected from the portal. So I've explained the document, which I hope now does make sense, and I will hand over to Anya, who will explain her own experiences of using Jigsaw in her school.
Thank you, Judy. I'd like to start by giving some context to our setting. We are considered a rural school and currently have 39 pupils organised into 2 classes. We have a mixed Year 3, 4, 5, 6 class, which I teach, and a mixed Year 1 and 2 class. EYFS spends some time with the Year 1 and 2 class and some time alone. I do not consider myself in any way a Jigsaw expert, but have been asked to speak in this webinar as we have been using the materials in the organised by theme arrangement and have some thoughts to share which will hopefully be useful. I think it is useful to note that we had our most recent Ofsted inspection in February of this year and received an outstanding in personal development. We attribute a good deal of this to the work we have completed with Jigsaw to create a bespoke curriculum which really fits our setting. So why did we get in touch with Jigsaw? As with all subjects, in a very mixed age setting, creating progressions that are actually progressive is extremely difficult. We had been teaching the materials on a 2-year rolling programme, organised into an EYFS group, a mixed Year 1 and 2 group, a mixed Year 3, 4 and a mixed Year 5, 6 group. So for example, Year 3 and 4 would work their way through the Year 3 materials in the Year A and the Year 4 materials in Year B. This meant a Year 3 beginning with the Year 4 materials would appear to go backwards in Year B as they would be completing the Year 3 materials. This did not show progression as clearly as we were aiming for, and it made us wonder if a different organisation of the materials could be more progressive. We had been exploring creating progressions that covered whole themes in one chunk in other subjects. For example, in science we now cover the whole of electricity, for example, together to avoid taking a backward step in progression, and we'd had success with this model. We therefore approached Jigsaw to ask if something like this was possible, and I want to say a huge thank you at this point to Judy and the Jigsaw team. As a small school with mixed-age classes, we have approached many organisations over the years asking for support with their own materials for mixed-age settings, and have usually only had very limited response if there has been any response at all. Jigsaw, on the other hand, absolutely listened, understood what we were asking, and developed this unit by theme. And we say thank you very much, Jigsaw. So how are we using the materials? We have been using the progression by theme for over a year at this point. We have trialled different ways to organise lessons and have some suggestions for what has worked best for us. We have also considered what is still difficult. We are, after all, still trying to fit more lessons into a given time than a non-mixed age setting, and have some suggestions which we have found helpful. So how are we currently organising our Jigsaw lessons? We have decided as a school, as the learning within Jigsaw underpins all other learning and life in general, to prioritise Jigsaw lessons within our weekly timetables. Our younger class has fairly simple organisation. EYFS are taught separately by a TA on their own lesson. While this is happening, the class teacher takes the Year 1 and Year 2 group and uses the materials organised in the progression by theme manner in a 2-year rolling programme. This means we will be covering a range of lessons from the ages 5 to 6 materials and ages 6 to 7 materials in the same academic year. Our Key Stage 2 class is a little more complicated to organise and often requires more flexibility. Although we're fortunate to have absolutely fabulous TAs who could absolutely teach Jigsaw, we feel that the class teacher should teach both sessions in these older age groups due to the nature of the material discussed and the potential for needing to act on pupil responses. We therefore have 2 lessons of Jigsaw a week, one for Year 3-4 and another for Year 5-6. In order to achieve this, we organise the lessons in one of 2 ways. Model 1 is most frequently used. I teach the input for a different lesson to the whole class. We usually use RE or computing, but have used almost all subjects. I then send off one of the groups, for example Year 3-4, to complete the next part of the computing lesson or RE lesson, and keep 5 and 6 with me for their whole Jigsaw lesson. We then swap. Taking the Jigsaw group outside has proven very helpful, especially in the summer months, as one of the difficulties is having 2 classes in the same room, especially during the calm me and pause for thought moments. In Model 2, we complete Connect Us and Calm Me together, as this reduces some of the time needed. We then send one group off, usually finishing work or reading independently or completing some take-up time, complete the lesson and swap as before. We find that this model, however, is less personal for the year groups, as Year 5 and 6 approach things so differently to Year 3 and 4. As such, we prefer Model 1, but Model 2 is good when more pressed for time. Being flexible has been essential, and knowing that it will probably look different each week, and that is okay, has also been really important. I found this really hard initially, but it's got easier as we've completed more and more Jigsaw lessons. So what has been good? Using this model has helped us feel confident. We can talk clearly about why we do what we do in the order we do it in, which has been really important, especially when we were speaking with Ofsted. We were able to confidently talk through exactly how we have organised our PSHE and why we've done it that way. It was also evident to Ofsted that our pupils had a clear understanding of important topics. They were asked many questions by the lead inspector, which they were able to answer extremely thoughtfully, we feel, due to our Jigsaw curriculum. We feel confident we are delivering the RSE and the PSHE materials well. The progression feels progressive, and children have made links to the previous year's learning and can see how things have moved on. It's helped us find a system, we know the order, and as a result can focus on our delivery and organisation as well as other elements of Jigsaw. Pupils are successful and the lessons meet their needs. We have had more time to develop our whole school approach to Jigsaw as a result of using the materials organised in this manner. So where do the challenges lie? Time is still a really big factor. It is hard fitting in 2 lessons where really there is only space for 1. There is definitely an increased need for children to be able to work independently. This is something that goes right across small school settings and needs to be developed and nurtured before pupils can be expected to do it. We are lucky to have mega TAs at our school. When they are not there, it is much more complicated to deliver our Jigsaw lessons. It's extremely easy to fall behind as there is so much to cover, and it's also extremely difficult to catch back up when you do fall behind. I think it's important as well to note that when the Changing Me unit is covered in Year 5 and 6, a reorganisation is needed. In the past, we have grouped lessons and covered them in quick succession when the Year 3 and 4s have been elsewhere. This has not been a successful strategy, and it has all been too rushed. A more successful method we have found was to use another teacher to take the Year 3 and 4 for weekly PE lessons. They were therefore out of the classroom. There was a much better understanding from the children, and there was more adequate time for them to reflect and ask questions. So how do we record our children's learning? One of the ways we ensure we have enough time for Jigsaw is to simplify how we record work as much as possible. As a school, we have chosen to record all learning, except maths, in the same book. So we use the back of this book as the space to record what we do in Jigsaw. We print screen the My Jigsaw journey statements and add the date and which lesson we are covering. We have chosen not to use the My Next Learning Steps and reflection sheets provided for each Jigsaw lesson and have instead developed a single phrase. How will I apply what I have learnt to my own life, which the children answer at the end of each lesson. We have found this useful for assessment as children have the opportunity to reflect. This helps with independence, and children can do this while I start teaching the next group. We alter some tasks to enable them to be completed independently. For example, adding some questions that would typically be displayed on the board and putting them into their books. We ask sometimes that pupils record written answers rather than talk about things. This will of course depend on your setting. For example, my Year 3 and 4 group wouldn't enjoy doing this. They find writing much more challenging, so for them we ask them to record it as a group and then take photos and add this to their books instead. We record additional materials linked to well-being alongside our Jigsaw materials. We find our pupils especially love looking back at photos of activities and events from the year. We find that recording this additional material helps children make links to Jigsaw being a set of life skills there to be called upon when they are needed. We also record our further learning about British values alongside our Jigsaw learning. An aspect of our practice Ofsted were complimentary of was how we used retrieval practice linked to British values. Around once a week we pose a question linked to British values that pupils answer. During our inspection, it meant we had examples of our children's understanding of British values to share readily. There is an absolute wealth of information on the Jigsaw site. The things we have found incredibly useful include the Jigsaw RSHE audit, which has statements which we have treated like next steps. These next steps then feed into the Jigsaw action plan. Each of these documents only took a short while to complete and were very easy to follow. We have found that the ideas in the audit have had a big impact. We also used the Jigsaw assessment materials at the end of each unit. We use the weekly celebrations in assemblies. Our TAs, teachers and pupils all add information to one of the posters that is put up around the school each week. We discuss these in an assembly each week. These are linked to the half-termly units. We also use praise pads, which help raise the profile of RSE and PSHE really easily. Completing the audit and action plan was part of the process for us becoming a flagship school. Here is our giant Jigsaw Jerry, which we received upon being awarded the status. We find this character most useful for our setting as it does not relate to a specific year group. So our top tips: be flexible. It's likely things will change every week and no two lessons will ever look the same. Be creative. What works for us may not work in another setting, and we have trialled many ideas before reaching the ones we settled on. Use an iPad to show you the lesson plan while the slides are on your main screen. I have not made this leap at all, but it saves a great deal of paper rather than trying to print out each lesson each week. And finally, talk to Jigsaw. They are so supportive and so helpful.
We do hope that this webinar has been useful. If you have any further questions or need support, please do contact Jigsaw either on the email address or the telephone number shown on screen. A big thank you to Anya for her input and invaluable help in developing the document itself. We are providing you with a takeaway of some top tips, which hopefully you will find useful. Thank you very much for watching this webinar.